गुड इवनिंग एंड अ वेरी वार्म वेलकम टू द ब्लैक होल। दोस्तों, ये ज़िंदगी, ये दुनिया, ये जहान या ये कायनात मुख्तलिफ़ लोगों के लिए मुख्तलिफ़ रंग, मुख्तलिफ़ सूरत, मुख्तलिफ़ मानी या मुख्तलिफ़ मफ़हूम रखती है। और शायद बड़ी हद तक इसकी वजह वो मुशाहदात हैं जो मुख्तलिफ़ लोगों के मुख्तलिफ़ होते हैं और उनके अपने अपने नुक्ता नज़र पर मबनी होते हैं। मिसाल के तौर पर एक सियासतदान का नुक्ता नज़र कुछ और होगा, एक शायर का नुक्ता नज़र कुछ और होगा, एक फ़लसफ़ी दुनिया को किसी और निगाह से देखेगा, एक बच्चा जो है वो किसी और नज़र से देखेगा, एंड सो ऑन। तो आज हमारा मौजू जो है वो कुछ इसी तरह का है और आज हम ये जानने की कोशिश करेंगे कि एक वीडियो गेम डेवलपर या एक प्रोग्रामर जो है वो इस दुनिया को या इस कायनात को किस नज़र से देखता है। एंड हेंस द टाइटल जो आप मेरी पुश्त पे बोर्ड पे लिखा हुआ देख सकते हैं, व्यूइंग द यूनिवर्स थ्रू द आइज़ ऑफ अ प्रोग्रामर। और इसके लिए वी आर वेरी ग्रेटफुल टू आवर स्पीकर। मेरे दाएं जानिब तशरीफ़ फरमाए अल्तमुश खान आतिश। ही इज़ अ सीजनड गेम डिज़ाइनर with extensive experience, having served as the former lead game designer at the Game Storm Studios and Absologix. Throughout his career, he has worked on over 100 apps for Android, iOS, and PC. Moreover, his expertise in game design, in addition to his expertise in game design, Altamush Khan Attish is a passionate philosophy enthusiast with a particular interest in ancient philosophies. तो ये बहुत मैं ख़ुद भी मुतजस्सिस हूँ कि वो फ़लसफ़े के और अपने जो आईटी का, उनका प्रोग्रामिंग का जो तजर्बा है, उन दोनों को कैसे वो इस दुनिया को देखने में इस्तेमाल करेंगे और बरूए कार लाएंगे। आप सब लोगों की आमद का शुक्रिया। प्लीज़ डू अस अ फेवर एंड रोज़ाना की तरह अपने सेल फोन जो है प्लीज़ आप साइलेंट मोड पे कर लें, सो दैट देर इज़ नो डिस्ट्रैक्शन और हमारी तवज्जो जो है गुफ्तगू पर ही रहे। आप इस गुफ्तगू में ज़रूर शरीक होइएगा। जस्ट रेज योर हैंड फर्स्ट सो दैट दिस माइक्रोफोन इज़ गिवन टू यू। तो यही थी दो तीन छोटी सी गुजारिशात। नाउ प्लीज़ वेलकम अल्तमुश खान आतिश। थैंक यू।
Hello, so I'll first begin by sharing something that I watched on TV, and it was The Twilight Zone. In The Twilight Zone, there was this episode, and in that episode, during that episode, it always started in a courtroom. Always it started in a courtroom. And at the end of the court session, the person was sentenced to death. And that person said, "Don't do this. If I die, you die." That's what he said. People were confused. Why would you say that? He said, "You're all part of my dream. You're all part of my dream. And since this is my dream, if you eliminate me, your existence will disappear. You'll no longer exist." And they were like, "Hang on a second. How can we be part of your dream? We have a background, we had parents, and we have jobs, we have children. So how can we be part of your dream?" And he was like, "In all dreams, everybody has a background. When the mind creates anything inside of a dream, all the people that you see, if you really, really focus on your dreams, you will notice that every single character that appears in your dream has a background. You know where they're from. You somehow know their history, and you know why they're there." And in the Twilight Zone, what happened was that when he was put on the electric chair, all of the people in that courtroom and in that world started disappearing one after the other. That man said that I am in this dream. I've been here before, and this is a recurring dream. And he was so used to it, he would say, "Don't do this. Don't kill me." In fact, by the end of the episode, one of the characters in that dream found out that he's correct. This is a dream. But by the time he wanted to stop that person from going to the electric chair, he was dead. So he disappeared as well. What I'm trying to say is that his brain created a simulation, a world within a world, and the brain was capable. That is why it can do that. If you land in any world in your dream, that wall as a background. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. But if you're in a deep sleep, most of the dreams are going to make sense, and you'll be like, this is familiar. I know this place. I know these people. Even if you don't know them, you'll say, I know them. And this is my friend, although you may not have seen this person before. When a programmer looks at the universe and how the system of things work, we first take a look at the laws that this world and this universe operates on. And we take a look at what we can do when we are using our computers, when we're making video games, and when we are thinking about all of these things, that if we can make a game engine, we can program a game, and we can make a game in a way where we don't even know what the outcome of that game is. What is that game then? And what proof do we have that the world that we live in is based reality or is a simulation within a reality? We don't really know that. But what we do know is this. All game engines and all programs have laws, have rules. And if the rules are designed and implemented in such a way where you say you will operate in this set of rules, and once we push you, once those things start happening, within those rules, anything can happen. Things can be created, things can be destroyed, which happens usually in procedurally generated games, and also games where mostly the things that you see, you are inside an ever-expanding universe. And there are games like No Man's Sky where the further you go, the universe expands. In a programmer's point of view, even if we are not in a simulation, it kind of feels like one, and it definitely operates like one, because when we make a game and when we make a program, we are kind of doing the same things that this world is doing. Yes, it is true that the game engine that we create and the physics and the chemistry and all of the laws that we use inside of the game engine are based on the laws of this world. But we can replicate them. That is a scary thing, that we can do this in a computer. We can create a world in a computer. We can create a star system inside of a computer with characters in a world, with their lives, with their memories. We can do that. It'll take a lot of time and very good programming knowledge, but we can do that. In theory, we can. And there are certain AI these days that can also operate somewhat like a foolish human being. Let's just say, call them foolish human beings, or human beings that are intellectually impaired. So what happens is that if you have an artificial intelligence that is super intelligent, it might probably not know that it is inside of a simulation, because it's operating within a world, and if you don't tell it that you are in a simulation, it would know. And it would continue operating within the rules, creating things, destroying things, and making things inside of its world, using the rules and using the code of that world. And this is basically essentially what the Matrix was. If you take a look at the Matrix, which was a simulation, the people inside the Matrix didn't really know that they were in a simulation. Similarly, there was a game, which is Soma, which actually questioned what does it really mean to be alive. In that game, people were inside of a simulation. Their entire brains were copied and put inside robots and put inside simulated worlds. And they never knew that they were inside of a simulation. And the reason for that is because unless somebody tells you that you are in a simulation, you will never know. And if nobody tells you, then you'll have to find glitches in the simulation which will explain whether you are in a simulation or not. Now, one of the most fascinating things is that this world actually kind of operates in a game engine way if you take a look at level of detail, which is a thing inside of games. In level of detail, what happens is games have to optimize the resources that a computer is using. So something that's very far away from you isn't rendered properly. it's rendered as a low polygon version. So let's suppose that there is a tree. Now you can see all of the details of the tree. You can see textures of the tree, and you can see the leaves of the tree and the branches of the tree and the colors of the tree. What a game engine does is, since it goes far away, if it's very far away, the game does not need to use its resources to render the textures and the leaves and the details. It doesn't need to do that. So what it does is it loads up a model which just has generic leaves, doesn't have textures, and doesn't have normal maps, and doesn't have the map detail. And if you're not a game developer, map details are basically the details which tells the textures how to look like once you view them. So when a tree is far away, the leaves disappear, and you just have, basically, if it's a 3D model, sometimes it becomes a 2D picture of that tree, because that is easier to render. And this is what our world does, actually, what I believe, and what a programmer believes. Because most of you probably know about the double slit experiment. Probably most of you know that, where what happened was that this is something that even scientists cannot explain. So what happened was, during the double slit experiment, that there was a fluorescent screen. They fired light, I believe it was electrons, and what happened was that they opened up one slit, which the light passed through. It created one band, and that was light or electrons behaving as a particle. But when they opened the second slit, they saw 4 bands instead of 2, which means the electrons became a wave, or the light became a wave. And people were surprised, like, how can that happen? How can light or electrons change their pattern, change their entire behavior when you open the second slit? They're somehow interacting with each other. And so what they did is they placed a sensor on the upper slit to see how many electrons are passing through the upper slit. I believe it was either light or it was electrons. I believe it was electrons. So they put a detector on the slit, on the upper slit, to detect how many electrons are passing through. As soon as it did that, those electrons started making 2 bands again. So they changed their behavior, and that is something that has still baffled scientists. And it's like, how did this happen? How did the electrons do this? The only explanation they had is that electrons found out that they were being observed. So they changed their behavior. This is similar to how game engines behave, where they change their behavior based on the observer. So sometimes what happens is, if there is a character that is very far away, and it's a full 3D model, its face will not be rendered. It will just be a box. But when you get closer to it, its face starts rendering. You can see the contours and everything, because you're getting closer to it. So the closer you get to something, the more detail this world shows. This is quite fascinating, and this means that basically there is something that we still don't understand. The people who believe, and programmers that believe, that this entire world is basically a system of things, which I'm saying simulation is not necessarily a simulation. I mean, whoever created this entire universe had to do something, like they had to come up with rules and physics. So without it couldn't work. Of course, you need a system of things, whatever it is. But most people that I speak to believe that the Earth is the center of everything, and all the other planets don't really make sense. Like, if you take a look at, Michio Kaku said, the more we take a look at the universe, the more we find out how pointless it basically is. And it is pointless. Like, if you take a look at all of the other planets, they have the same elements, that they're made out of the same elements that are on Earth, but they're pointless. According to our understanding, they're pointless. Nothing can survive there. Or if something is surviving there, they're doing a very good job at not making us know. Like, we don't know if something can survive there, like those temperatures, and some of them are so dark, and we haven't found a single planet. So, single planet that can support human life, we haven't found that. So what programmers believe is that this universe is most likely, just like a game engine, a procedure is being procedurally generated. The further you go, the more planets are created to keep people inside of that box that they're in a universe and keep them in the illusion. That's what some of my programmer friends say. And they say that the reason for that is because we can do this. We can create a game engine and a game where we go as the further we go, the more planets are created, and they will remain consistent as long as the computer can handle it. We can do this. It is possible. We just set up some rules, set up the name of the elements, and say that this can be a mixture of this can be a mixture of that, and you've just got an infinite universe. The only time it will crash is when the computer is simply not good enough to handle all of the data. That is the only time it's going to basically crash. Otherwise, it's going to keep running. So another thing that which I will ask all of you, what did the witch in Snow White say when she looked into the mirror? What did she say? Has anybody heard Snow White? Like, yeah. How many remember this? That the Snow White.
Mike.
Okay, how many of you remember Star Wars? And how many know that place where that scene where Anakin, basically Darth Vader was told Luke Skywalker that he is the father. What is the line? Yeah. How many people say I'm your father? He said. All right. So there are two Mandela effects. Most people remember I'm your father. He said, Luke, I'm your father. And most people in Snow White, many people believe that he said, that the witch said, mirror, mirror on the wall. And millions of people say mirror, mirror on the wall. It was actually magic mirror on the wall. But magic mirror on the wall, and people swear by it, that throughout their childhood, they have heard mirror, mirror on the wall. And this is called the Mandela effect, where people basically, a large portion of the population believe that something happened which never did. There are certain people that believe a logo. How many of you know Pikachu? Right? What does the tail look like? Black zigzag on the end, right? There is no black zigzag on the end. It's all yellow. There's yellow. It's totally yellow. Yeah, seriously, look it up. That's the Mandela effect. Everybody says that. It's yellow. It's totally yellow. There's not a single black on the tail. That's a Mandela effect. This is a glitch in the simulation, basically. This is what people believe. You see, what happens is that our brain creates memories when there's a glitch in the simulation. And there are many. Basically, this is called the Mandela effect. So this is when a large population believes that there is something, but it's actually not there. Like, how many of you played Monopoly? Have you? Do you know about the mascot? All right, fine. Okay, so most people basically believe that Pikachu has a black thing. He doesn't. Never did. It's all yellow. So that's a Mandela effect. So these are basically small signs that somehow, some way, this simulation or this world corrects itself, and due to that, false memories are created. But this happens like many people, if they believe in the same thing, then it's called the Mandela effect. Most people believe that Nelson Mandela died in jail. That never happened. It never happened, but many people can swear by it that they actually saw Nelson Mandela die in jail, or they knew that Nelson Mandela died in jail. That never happened. So basically what a programmer does is, and the people that are basically inside of the simulation, the people who believe that we're in a simulation, what they do is they try to reverse engineer. They try to find out how this world is working and what is basically happening. And many people say, and many people take a look at quantum physics, and they say that there's a saying: if you believe you understand quantum physics, then you don't understand it. You know, that's what they say, because that is something that we will never ever understand, even if we try to. Because according to quantum physics, all of you exist, now you don't, because I'm not looking at you. So that's what quantum physics is basically, because you're basically observed. So you exist now you don't. But since you are looking at me, I'm entangled in your reality. So that's the reason why why I exist. And if you throw something at me, it'll hit me, because you basically view me. Now I'm part of your world or your simulation or your reality, or probably I'm not real. Probably you're not real. I don't know. If I was to take your brain or imprint of your brain while you're sleeping, or let's say somebody somehow eliminated you while you're sleeping, takes an imprint of your brain, puts it in a computer, and uses your memories to recreate the earth, you wouldn't know that. You would absolutely not know that. And that's how a programmer sees the world. There is a time, like people say that probably the world has ended and we are in some kind of a virtual pod and living inside of a simulation, just like in a matrix, because some of us have a purpose, and that purpose is probably to entertain somebody with a very who really wanted to be entertained. And you know what the good thing about a simulation, people say that, oh, like if this world was that organized, or this world had a purpose, and no, I'm wrong. This world, definitely, we do not know what the purpose of the world is, but people say the person who created this, wouldn't they know that these bad things will happen if we did this? And the answer is no. The reason why you run a simulation is because you do not know the end. That's the purpose. That is the entire reason of running a simulation. In the world today, we run simulations to find out what will happen. So that explains why most people, when they say that, this world, it doesn't make any sense, and if any creator, whichever creator you believe in, is that powerful and that, why wouldn't he know? Well, he set the rules. Or if you believe in a creator, they set the rules, they did this, they did that, and then whatever happens. Because if I create a game which is very sophisticated with AI, I don't know what the AI will do. I can predict what it'll do, but I don't know. There has been this concepts in the Matrix 2 that programs inside of the Matrix went rogue. You know, those rogue programs that were basically sent to be deleted in the Matrix 2 and Matrix Reloaded, I believe that was the movie. The programs that could glitch the Matrix systems, they were programs that were supposed to be deleted, but they did not want to be deleted, so they became rogue programs in the Matrix. That's what they became. So even the Matrix creators, the creators of the Matrix, couldn't do anything about it. And we know, every one of us, and mostly in Pakistan, most of the population is Muslim. We just know one thing that went rogue in our belief system. Who is that? Yes. Just one. And look at what happened after that. So basically, a programmer reverse engineers what they see, tries to reverse engineer what they see. And if I make games, I can tell you there would come a time where we would be able to create simulations which will be similar to our world. In Soma, which is a game, it's not easy to get information from people, from criminals. So what they do is they take the imprint of the brain. Prisoners, they would take the imprint of a prisoner's brain. They put it in a computer and torture that prisoner until they would give the information. That's what they did in Soma, which is a video game. No, that's not what I'm saying is this. The Soma in the video game, the concept was that they could imprint a person's brain into a computer. They wouldn't be torturing the person, but they would be torturing that imprint of that brain, which had the same memories, had the same history and everything. Instead of a simulation, they would torture them to get the information. Now that's thought-provoking. So is the person in that computer real, or is that person fake? I mean, they don't know that they're in a simulation, but how is that person, of course, doesn't have the hardware, but how does that person that is inside the computer not have the same rights that the other person has, the one that's alive? You know?
Hamlet play, we come to know how his unconscious conscious works, and he's all time in high thinking and inactive doings. So it's all time circles in his mind. That's why we say, and we come to know through his soliloquies, off the record talks. But it would not have been the technique used as by Shakespeare, how he would reach to his conscious. The way you have said about, but it's all of like kind a fume present upon the mind for a being. It comes as a tide and then goes off. So how we can make the things related the way you said, that we get the imprint and then
Well,
read on it.
Soma is basically a game. It's a fictional universe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
But we are
it's
to make the
yeah, in theory,
concrete on that basis.
it's a theory. I mean, what they did is it's now we don't have the technology to do
We
it.
declare the crime
Huh?
happening.
Huh?
We try to, you can say, reach the minds of the crime.
Listen, we do not have. In theory, we can do a lot of things.
Clever gene.
Huh?
What about clever gene? Clever gene is all time present in, you can say, criminals. And that's never ever been
No,
traced
actually, I'm
about.
speaking about something different. Let me
Okay,
explain.
what's
Let me
related?
explain what I'm saying. No, we cannot imprint the brain yet. In Soma, it was a game that is supposedly taking place in the very distant future. They developed a technology to imprint the brain. That means they could somehow get all of the information that we have, all the memories in the brain, and put it in a computer. We haven't developed that technology. Probably we never will. But what they questioned this, that if we have imprint of the brain inside of a computer, then what is that computer then? That's what they questioned. Like, what does that computer become? In fact, Soma is actually very interesting because after they took the imprint of a human being and put it inside of a robot, the human being saw their arms as if they were human arms for a huge number of years, because their brain simply couldn't comprehend that this is a robot arm. And if somebody goes and tells them that they're a robot, they would say, "What are you talking about? You're like full of crap. Like, I'm a human being." Because their brain hadn't developed couldn't fathom the idea, wasn't so much denial that they would look at their hands and they would be human hands, although they were robots. And the person who was actually the protagonist in the game, he also thought that he was a human. He was actually a robot. So the only way he found out was when he was thrown into a water, and he found out that he was in a robot body, because that robot body was actually a swimmer robot body. So at that time, because he could breathe, he started choking like a normal person would. But when he like took his first breath, he could breathe. And he was like, "What is happening?" Then his brain started registering that, oh, he's a robot. Then he could see his hand morph into a robot's hand. And also, there's another thing too that programmers really, really find disturbing when they look at the game Soma, is that when they were transferring the consciousness, the mind of one person to the body of another, the weird thing in that game was that there was a 50% chance that the imprint or the going from one body to another, there was 50% chance that it would not happen completely. So you would have two versions of the same person. The imprint would happen, but the person whose imprint was taken wouldn't die. So in that game, what happened was that you had to go into another body. But when you go to that other body, your previous body didn't die, but it became unconscious. And then you have to make the choice. Will you kill that or will you let it live? And most people are like, how can we kill ourselves? Like, that is us. That was us a few minutes ago. That's just one mind to another. Like, that's just a hardware change. But is that person me, or is that person not me anymore? And am I a copy, or was that person real? You know, those kind of things. The programmer basically takes a look at all of these things and the code and everything, and looks at this, the mind as a computer program. Everybody has this chip inside. Everybody has a brain which runs on but it has its own biology, chemicals, physics, but inside of it is basically what we call the code of the universe, or the program. And that is what a programmer always looks at. And that is why I believe Elon Musk and even Neil deGrasse Tyson believe that we are in a simulation. Neil deGrasse Tyson says that there's 50% chance that we are in a simulation, 50% that we aren't in one. But Elon Musk says that the chances that we are not in a simulation is the odds are 1 billion. He believes that we're in a simulation. Whereas I'd say we shouldn't care. If this is based reality or this is simulation, we shouldn't care. What we should care about is what difference we can make and how we can make the simulation better and less painful for all those around, and what we can do to help others, and those that are weaker than us, how we can help them to achieve the goals that they wish to achieve, and also achieve our goals, and hopefully make our generations that are to come and be part of this based reality or simulation just better. Thank you very much. Q&A session, please.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। आपने ज़िक्र किया था कोड के बारे में ना, लाइक व्हेन अ प्रोग्रामर कोड्स ही डजंट लाइक वो सारे ही डिटर्मिनिस्टिक कोड नहीं लिखता अक्सर औकात। लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल इफ़ यू आर सिमुलेटिंग अ वर्ल्ड, तो लाइक व्हाट आर द रूल्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, लाइक लेट्स से कि दुनिया हमारी इतनी कॉम्प्लेक्स है एंड लाइक लेट्स अज्यूम कि एक सिमुलेशन बना रहा है एक क्रिएटर लाइक अ प्रोग्रामर, तो व्हाट आर द रूल्स ऑफ दैट गेम, लाइक क्योंकि उसको जाहिर सी बात है ही हैज़ टू स्टार्ट समवेयर। तो स्टीफन वुलस्ट्रैम के बारे में पढ़ा था, उन्होंने कहा था कि रूलियड ऑब्जेक्ट होता है, लाइक उसमें यह था कि एक कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी अराइव फ्रॉम एनी लेवल, लाइक उन्होंने कहा था लाइक फ्रॉम ए सिंपल कोड, ए सिंपल रूल्स यू कैन एक्चुअली सिमुलेट एनीथिंग। तो आपके उस बारे में क्या ख्याल है कि लाइक रूलियड ऑब्जेक्ट के बारे में, एंड सेकेंडली व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट द रूल्स ऑफ द गेम, अगर आप अपनी पर्सनल ओपिनियन दें। थैंक यू।
देखिए, मुझे जो उसका पता है कि जो आपने उसका जो बात की है उसके बारे में तो मैं नहीं कोई बात नहीं कर सकता क्योंकि मुझे उसका पता नहीं है जिस चीज़ के बारे में आपने कहा है ना। मैं ये कहूँगा कि मैंने ये अपनी शुरू में टॉक में कहा था कि अगर मैं कोई रूल बनाऊँगा तो मैं वो उन रूल्स को इस्तेमाल करूँगा जिसका मुझे पता है। Like, so what I'm trying to say is that either I will create a game or a simulation based on my base reality, which I believe is my base reality, which might not be, or make a smaller version of that. Like, first करें कि हम 3D world में रह रहे हैं, 2D में भी पूरी world बन सकती है 2 dimensions के अंदर। उसके अंदर ये होगा कि वो मेरे लिए 1 dimension कम हो जाएगी, लेकिन बात ये है कि मैं 4 dimensions की गेम नहीं बना सकता क्योंकि 4 डायमेंशंस का हमें पता भी नहीं है वो कैसी दिखती होगी ना। तो मैं ये ऐसी गेम ज़रूर बना सकता हूँ जिसके अंदर टाइप 3 टाइप 4 सिविलाइजेशंस जो हैं वो दिखाई दे रही हूँ, यानी कि हम लोग उस उधर तक नहीं पहुँचे, लेकिन बात ये है कि मैं शुरू ही इस चीज़ से कर सकता हूँ कि टाइप 4 टाइप 5 सिविलाइजेशन।
मेरा रूल से मुराद ये है कि हाउ डू यू इंटेंड टू गेट देयर, लाइक जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल एक रूल हो सकता है कि अ प्लेयर मूव फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू अनदर, लाइक हाउ, वो एक बड़ा सिंपल सा रूल है, लाइक रूल 1 लेट्स से, But how do you go from simple rules to type 4 or type 3
नहीं
civilization?
एक्चुअली ना उसके अंदर ये है कि अगर हम इस सिमुलेशन की बात करें ना, जो अगर ये सिमुलेशन है, वैसे तो बेस्ड रियलिटी मुझे लगता है ये है, लेकिन जैसे ज़्यादातर लोग बिग बैंग को समझते हैं कि बिग बैंग वाज द शुरू ये ठीक है। तो बात असल में ये है कि जो बहुत ही कोई इंप्रेसिव प्रोग्रामर होगा ना, वो चीज़ें इस तरीके से नहीं शुरू करता कि रूल ये है कि पॉइंट ए से पॉइंट बी जाए। वो चीज़ें उस जगह से शुरू करता है कि एक सेट ऑफ रूल्स बना देता है, यानी कि ये फिजिक्स इस तरीके की होगी, यहाँ पे क्वांटम फिजिक्स होगी, यहाँ पे केमिस्ट्री होगी, यहाँ पे एलिमेंट्स होंगे, एंड देन लेट्स इट डू व्हाटएवर इट वांट्स टू डू। ठीक है, वो बेसिकली जो बिग बैंग का जो इनफैक्ट मैं ये भी बात करता हूँ जो कि द पीपल who believe, like who are believers, what I say is that everything has to start somehow. I mean, even if there was a big bang, I mean, it had to start. Like the universe had to start somehow. So and if the Earth was created, yes, it was created. It could have been part of a much larger event that happened.
बट आपने जिस तरह जिक्र किया कि मैंडेला इफेक्ट वगैरह, व्हाट इफ हमारे लाइक हमें किसी एक क्रिएटर ने या प्रोग्रामर ने उस गेम के रूल में बताया हुआ कि वी अज्यूम के बिग बैंग हैपन या वी अज्यूम
Could be.
इट कुड बी
Could be. Yeah, it could be a big deception. Like probably there is like I have no proof. I cannot prove this. Probably the dinosaurs never existed, and it is probably the dinosaurs were planted by a rogue agent, which most people call the deceiver, Satan. They call him. Probably they were planted. Probably they never existed. I mean, if you believe that Satan is a very powerful and rival or that kind. So. Of course, that entity would have a lot of power, and they would do whatever they can to deceive. So I mean, it could be. You can, these like if let's say I was a naughty alien creating a simulation for my viewers, I would sometimes put just a thing here and there just to see what people inside my simulation are doing, just for fun, that kind of a thing.
I just had a quick question. How could one establish sort of the link between a gaming simulation and the universe itself? Because fundamentally, right, when we're programming a game, our hardware is silicon based, but the life we see within the universe is biological, physical, chemical. So how do you extrapolate from that, I guess, is my question. Between gaming, between creating a game or simulating, right? Where the hardware is so different compared to what we see around us right now and how we study that.
Well, you see that we are basically the reason why we cannot create a world like this right now is because we don't really have the required expertise, you can say, and the required hardware also to run. I mean, I believe we actually do have the hardware to. Yeah. Let me answer his question first. Oh, sorry. So, you see, in a game, a programmer basically takes a look at a set of rules. Like there is a set of rules, and a good programmer, if they have to create a simulation, wouldn't create the Earth first. What they'd do is they'd create the Big Bang first, and know that the Earth will be created after a while. That's what they'd do. So they not create the Earth, they create the Big Bang, but they'll know that at one point the Earth will be created. But the sentient life, they'll have no control over it. Like the sentient characters that they create in the game, they wouldn't know. Just like at one time, AI would be so advanced that when we have characters in the game, sometimes if you run the game loop again, and the AI, if it's super advanced, sometimes it might get angry, sometimes it might get sad, sometimes it might get suicidal, sometimes it might get homicidal. So these are things that can happen. Other than that, there's a game called RimWorld. Take a look at that. That is basically that game is so well coded that the programmers don't themselves know what would be the end result of any playthrough. They have set a rule. They've set some rules, and there was one instance where there was this article it was a comment, actually a YouTube comment where this person was playing Wimworld, and he couldn't manage entertainment for his people. One of them got depressed and went on a killing spree, killed the crewmates. He didn't expect that. So
from what I'm understanding is for the programmer, he or she is programming the event itself. So in this situation, it would be the Big Bang, and then the sentience life that you're talking about is the byproduct. It just comes out.
Things are set in motion, basically. A good programmer would not basically create the Earth. They would create this Big Bang, and then through that, the Earth and the stars and all of those other things are created. Eventually, life, and that's what they would do.
Thank you.
सॉरी आपका मैंने आंसर मैंने बीच में इंटरप्ट किया था. जो भाई ने बात की थी सिलिकॉन बेस्ड हार्डवेयर की, आई थिंक जो ट्यूरिंग कंप्लीट का जो ट्यूरिंग मशीन का कॉन्सेप्ट है वो ये है कि गिवन इनफ रिसोर्सेज एंड इनफ टाइम और गिवन इनफ मेमोरी यू कैन सिमुलेट एनीथिंग. जो एलन ट्यूरिंग का कॉन्सेप्ट है ना बेसिक कंप्यूटर आर्किटेक्ट का, तो वो हार्डवेयर इट वाज लाइक अ थ्योरेटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट बट इट्स नॉट लिंक्ड टू एनी हार्डवेयर. इट्स लाइक गिवन इनफ रिसोर्सेज एंड इनफ मेमोरी यू कैन सिमुलेट एनीथिंग.
Actually, most people do not know this, but we always had the technology for AI, but we didn't have the processing power. We always had the technology, like not always, but years ago we had that technology. We knew how AI would be created, and even these days too. I think it's a little bit. I haven't taken a very close look at AI, but some people believe that large language models aren't really the AI that will change our world. It'll be AGI or something that is going to be much more complex. Well, like large language models are large language models. They kind of are like AI, but a weak form. Most people say that they're different opinions. Like nobody is correct, nobody is incorrect. So.
Okay, this can be a silly question, but how can you define the relationship between the one who creates the game or the one who plays the game?
A creator usually creates something to share.
While keeping the player in his mind?
The players are just like, that's the scary part. If the world was created, it was created for the purpose of sharing. There's no other way. There's no other reason. A creator creates.
But if makes the rules.
A creator creates, right? If I'm a good programmer, I would want to make a good game and release it to the public so I can be praised. I mean, that would be the purpose. Or people could enjoy playing it, right? But the thing about a creator that has created sentient life or AI or life is that they want to share that with other creators or other people that they know, so that they can see that this is the creation that they did and they can admire or praise that, right? So the player inside of the game, if you're talking about the player that's inside the game or the one that's playing the game, the person that is playing the game, I'm not talking about that's not a simulation, that is actually a game, right? So that is an experience for the player to enjoy, whereas a simulation is an experience for the viewers to enjoy. That's the difference.
कोशिश में रहा कि मैं कोई सवाल बना सकूं, कोई बना नहीं, लेकिन कुछ रैंडम थॉट्स जो आ रही थी पैरेलल करने की. आप गेम्स खेलते हैं जिस तरह, तो उसमें रिवार्ड होता है, उसमें पनिशमेंट भी होती है. समथिंग गोज़ रॉन्ग तो आपके चांसेस खत्म. एक लेवल से आप दूसरे लेवल पे जाते हो, जनरली हर अगला लेवल पहले से ज़्यादा मुश्किल होता है मगर मोर रिवॉर्डिंग भी होता है. और फिर उसको आसान बनाने के लिए यूजुअली देयर आर चीट कोड्स. व्हेन आई यूज्ड टू प्ले नीड फॉर स्पीड 2 तो बस मैं भी सोच रहा था कि हम भी यूनिवर्स बड़ी पुरस्कार सी एक हमारे सामने वो एक बिसात है, बहुत दिलचस्प भी है. और जिस तरह गेम के अंदर कोई ना कोई लॉजिक है, उसके पीछे प्रोग्रामिंग है, कोडिंग है. किसी जगह पे अगर कोई चीज़ ठीक या कोई अनोखी भी हो रही है तो उसके पीछे भी देयर इज़ अ लॉजिक. द प्रोग्रामिंग लॉजिक, तो यूनिवर्स के अंदर भी जो कुछ हो रहा है दैट सीम्स टू बी वेरी वेल प्रोग्राम्ड. उसके अंदर जैसा चीट कोड ढूंढने की कोशिश करते हैं, खुद से बनाने की आवाज़ है, हाँ, जो शायद हमारा अपना मफरूज़ा ही हो. और अच्छा, अब ये द ब्लैक होल है ना, कहा जाता है कि ये वर्म होल्स हैं या ब्लैक होल्स हैं जो कि शॉर्टकट हैं किसी और दुनिया की तरफ, जो एक नुक्ते से दूसरे नुक्ते तक शायद इन्फिनिट लाइट ईयर्स अवे हो, लेकिन दीज आर योर शॉर्टकट्स. तो बस मैं यही सोच रहा था कि गेम्स के अंदर भी हम चीट कोड्स ढूंढते हैं, कुछ शॉर्टकट्स इस तरह होते हैं. बाज़ात होते हैं, बाज़ात नहीं होते. बाज़ात आप उसकी तलाश में अपनी जो आपके पास चांस होते हैं या जो लाइव्स होती हैं गेम में वो खो देते हैं. तो हम भी बहुत से कुछ साइंटिफिक हम चीट कोड्स ढूंढते हैं जो शायद ठीक भी होती हो प्रोग्रामिंग पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. बाज़ात हम कुछ ऐसे खुद से बनाते हैं जिनकी शायद कोई हकीकत ना होती हो, लेकिन वो हमें तस्कीन दे देते हैं. बस दीज वर जस्ट सम रैंडम थॉट्स. बाय द वे, कोई रेलेवेंस अगर आप जोड़ सकें, वो मूवी है ना सोर्स कोड, नहीं देखी आपने? ओह, आई विश यू आपने देखी होती वो, शायद गिलानी साहब ने देखी हो.
I wanted to ask about, as a sociological speaking point of view, if you make a program as to how to manage the people in coming years, and you want to get them trained and skilled, and to get reactions and response based on emotional intelligence. Could we do it, for example, the way you create an environment, and you traditionally and conventionally, the way you can say, and the human race traveled through, mostly we say okay, still intellectual evolution is going on, and man hasn't got the full control on its emotions. And for example, we do say okay, we will do this act or will say this thing, surely the hate will develop. And if we do this and say this, will automatically the love will come. But again, we could say that despite we saying bitter and doing bitter, not attacking at some culture or religion or some attached emotion, despite no hate is coming on. So you can make the program like that. Okay, you can change the whole gambit of thinking patterning, the way it's going on, and as alternate route you make it. Okay, when people in general, middle and lower, you can say in operational life, कि आप ऐसा करते हैं तो फ़ौरन आपको मतलब फॉर एग्जांपल नफ़रत मिलती है, ऐसा करते हैं फ़ौरन लव मिलती है. लेकिन देयर कुड बी ए स्टेट ऑफ माइंड कि वहाँ यू कुड गो बियॉन्ड लव एंड हेट. ना आप पर मोहब्बत असर करती है, ना आप पर नफ़रत असर करती है. और ये आगे जाके आप एक प्रोग्राम बनाते हैं और कहते हैं कि कैसे जो है माइंड कुड बी अबव एवरी थिंग, एंड हाउ पीपल कुड बी मेड एंड सेट ऑन सच मोड्स के we would not expect that we will do this or we will say better or we will oppose some idea or ideology or something, but there would be no hate coming from. So we can bring the human race of people up to that level, and we can create a laboratory kind of environment where we can make the experiment. Experiment doesn't mean that people are like robots, but we would say how to think in new perspective. For example, how we can change the coming world through how to think plan. Okay, if you think in this way, you will not face hate. Even the words would be bitter and would be, you can say, making irritating person. There would be no irritation, there would be no hate, there would be no as such negativity. It means that we are traveling through, and social sciences could reach at that, we could get results through artificial intelligence. What question we could give to chat gp or like, and the response could come कि if you do this way, expectations are there. लेकिन कहीं अगर आपको इन आउट रिजल्ट्स ऊपर नीचे मिलते हैं तो आप अगली बार नेक्स्ट लेवल पर ट्राई करते हैं, एंड इन दिस वे यू कैन गेट सक्सेस टू क्रिएट एन एनवायरनमेंट. अगर आपको 2 4 5 7 10 केसेस भी मिल जाते हैं, यू कैन सेट मॉडल एज फॉर अदर्स. इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से मैं बात करूँ कि इट्स अ न्यू रियलिटी राइजिंग इन द प्रेजेंट वर्ल्ड, सिमुलेशन डिसिमुलेशन, दैट्स पर्सपेक्टिव.
If I were to create a simulation, I would want to create a simulation if I had the capability to create one, where the life inside would not have the knowledge of bad. Now, what does that mean? I don't know what that means, but I know that the knowledge of good and bad is the.
ये कह रहा हूँ कि ह्यूमन माइंड शुड रीच एट सच मेच्योरिटी कि वी शुड नॉट सी द थिंग्स थ्रू द लेंस ऑफ रिलीजन,
I was coming
कल्चर,
to that.
ट्रेडिशन,
I
तीनों
was
चीज़ों
coming.
को
I was
माइंड.
coming to that.
जी जी.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. According to me, the perfect way of life is not knowing what bad is. Now, what does that mean? I do not know what that means entirely, but what I can tell you is that if you don't have the knowledge of bad things, your life would be fine. The problem is that the knowledge of good and bad is essentially the knowledge of something that should not have ever been part of the human race. We should only have known what good is. We should never have known what bad things are and how bad can be done.
But good and bad is coming through the experimentation of the human being, as you can say.
What I'd say.
मैं ये कहता हूँ एक होलिस्टिक जो व्यू होता है, होलिस्टिक व्यू में फॉर एग्जांपल ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ जो सब्जेक्ट्स चल रहे होते हैं, सोशल साइंसेज, नेचुरल साइंसेज और ह्यूमन जो मतलब है कि ग्राउंड रियलिटी या सिचुएशन के मुताबिक जो कॉमन सेंस आप अप्लाई करते हैं, उस कॉमन सेंस के बेस पर ये होता है कि आपके माइंड के अंदर फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपको कोई इरिटेट कर रहा है, लेकिन अगर इंफॉर्मेशन ऑलरेडी उसके अंदर मौजूद है कि हाउ इरिटेशन कम्स या हाउ इमोशन रिस्पॉन्स, तो यू वुड नॉट बी. इट मीन्स कि इफ देयर इज नो इंफॉर्मेशन ऑलरेडी प्रेजेंट इन योर माइंड, देन हैविंग योर एम्प्टी माइंड यू विल रिएक्ट टू दिस. आई डिड मैनी एक्सपेरिमेंट्स थ्रू इट कि इंफॉर्मेशन मौजूद है तो वुड नॉट अफेक्ट एज हेट और लव और यूफोरिया और एक्सटेसी और वट एवर यू वांट टू.
I'd still remove the knowledge of bad from.
For example, आप कहते हैं good and bad. For example, if a person doesn't know the bad, good and bad are the products and the phantoms of the mind. Are the experiments which are coming through? Okay, if we do people, if you do this thing, they would be murdered, they would be killed, they would be rashed out, or something is there. But it means that experiments should keep going, and we could be able to create an environment. कि अगर आप इस तरह के environment आते हैं.
Actually, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but my perspective is this: I think that there is knowledge of bad that exists in human beings, and they're exposed to. All right.
First of all, I'm really sorry for being informal. Next silly question. According to your title, Weaving the Universe Through the Eyes of a Programmer, what will be the future concept? What will be the future ideas? Can you share with us any production, any report?
So I don't understand the question. Can you, like?
I'm saying your title, Weaving the Universe Through the Eyes of a Programmer. What will be the future ideas? What will be the future concept? Any report, any production? Can you share with us?
I basically am not producing anything myself, but what you can find a lot of YouTube videos where people decode or deconstruct the universe and why they think that this is working in a certain pattern similar to how you can create inside of a computer hardware. But these are all like people talk about black holes, that they're in they think that if you enter one, you'll exit from a white hole. That's what they say, but they can never prove it. So similarly, what programmers believe is that this might be base reality. But what we believe is that at one time we will be able to create such a world inside of a computer. And that is where we're terrified. Like we feel a little bit scared that what if we ourselves are in part of somebody else's entertainment system? That is what we're scared of. Basically, it's not that I think we are in base reality, but this base reality basically operates as if we are in a simulation, and it's not a very difficult thing to understand because the law of physics, chemistry, biology, and if you take a look at the universe and all of the planets, they don't make sense. Like the planets, the other planets, all of they don't make sense. I mean, even Michio Kaku said that the universe is so pointless, we don't understand why it was created. So it's kind of like that, that if you want to take a look at reports and these production videos, there are many on YouTube and everybody shares their opinions. But for a programmer, it's always this, that we are terrified of the idea that we will be able to create a world like this in the future in a computer. And they would know that they're in a simulation. That is a problem. And even Neil deGrasse Tyson spoke about that there's a simulation creates another simulation, that creates another simulation, that. So that's basically the thing.
Last, a very short question. While creating a game or a simulation, what are the moral and ethical traits you are considering?
The reason why a simulation in Soma was created because they could do things that the world deemed questionable, like let's say torturing prisoners. You can't do that, but you can do that in a simulation if you can imprint their brain somehow. You can basically, I don't know, cut their limbs off. But you can't do that in real life. So that's a terrifying idea. So there are no laws, especially if a simulation is created to entertain somebody. There are definitely no laws. In fact, there is a friend of mine who believes that the people that are most successful in the world are actually the most entertaining. They're doing something that somebody likes, and therefore they have power. That's right. When people say that faith changes things, and if you believe in God, then well, just a click of a button and your life is changed. Just fortune finds you. Thank you.